What's up, guys? Max here, back with a brand new episode of the Scuttlebutt Show. I hope you're all doing great out there, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I have a very special guest for you guys today. We spend quite a bit of time on this show talking about the Army, what's going on with the Army. We have soldiers in the chat right now that I can see dropping comments. What's up, John? What's up, Deb? Hello. What's up, Nuggets? What's up, Eviana? Welcome, everybody. And as we get ready to introduce our guest, I just want to give you guys a quick update. Tomorrow, there's not going to be a Scuttlebutt show because I'll be out doing the documentary premiere. Friday, that episode's going to come down to how much celebration we do after the documentary premiere, but we'll probably have an episode on Friday. So with all that being said, let me introduce you to today's guest, who is a soldier who has a very interesting story and is a TikTok superstar. We've got Austin. Austin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Max. How are you today?
I am excellent. It's great to see you. And just for anybody out there who doesn't, maybe somebody out there is like, oh, I know this guy. But for anybody who doesn't know who you are, can you give us a quick intro on yourself?
Yeah, my name is Austin, and I am a soldier in the United States Army. I work at the Airborne school right now. It's actually my first duty station, so I'm still kind of new to the Army, getting the feel for it. But I've had some really cool experiences, and yeah, so I grew up in Cincinnati, or just south of Cincinnati, really, northern Kentucky. When you're from Kentucky, you always have to specify where you're from. And so northern Kentucky, we got some normal folk up there. But anyways, so from northern Kentucky, just south of Cincinnati, and now living in Fort Benning, Georgia. And before I joined the Army, I was a pastor, and loved doing that. And worked at a local church in my community, and then I joined the chaplain corps in 2019, and so doing ministry here in the Army in a little different way outside the church, but man, it's been refreshing and fantastic. So
that's awesome, man. It's great to have you on the show. This is just the latest example of how cool the internet can be sometimes. For all the bad, there's good out there too. We linked up because we found each other on TikTok, and
right.
You hit me up on Instagram, and you, for anybody who doesn't know, I kind of want to share this really quick. For anybody who doesn't know, you are doing quite well on TikTok. I have your page pulled up right now with 407,000 followers, millions of likes. Every video is very cool with people jumping out of planes. So how TikTok? Why TikTok? Where TikTok? You know, how did this all happen?
Yeah. So it's actually a fun story. And so when I first showed up, when you come to the Airborne school, you'll notice that all of the cadre is like E6 and above, right? Like in order to be an instructor, you got to be a pretty senior guy. So you got the young buck coming in, like, I'm going to do ministry. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do awesome things. And I would show up places and I was greeted with like, what the hell are you doing here? And I was like, dang, like every time I'd show up, like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And so I was like, I have to figure out a way to connect with these guys and do some things that benefit them. And so I volunteered to run our Facebook page. And so it's just like the United States Army Airborne School Facebook page. Nobody was running it. The Battalion XO was like, absolutely, go for it. So now I'm lugging around this camera, and now I had a reason to be in the places that I was. And I started posting some pictures, and they started getting some traction, and then they let me go up in the bird, and these jump masters are hanging out of the bird, and I'm getting these awesome pictures, and now their wives are asking me for pictures of their husband, and it really was great. And so through that, I would just like casually pull my phone out and take video, post it on Instagram or whatever. And so I had hundreds of videos, and I posted one on TikTok, and it just like, it went crazy. And I think it's now at like 27 million views. The United States Army has used it on their Instagram, like just used it all over the place. And I actually reposted it yesterday, and it's got like 1 million views already again. And it's crazy. It's a fun video. But anyways, just through that, I've had TikTok for maybe a year now. I think it's right at a year, and 400,000 followers in a year is fun. And it's all transpired from, hey, what the heck are you doing here? And I'm just trying to figure out a purpose and helping some guys out. And so through that, from a ministry standpoint, I was able to spend time with guys. Yes, I was taking pictures with them, but my philosophy on ministry is like literally build a relationship with the guy or girl, and be there for them, serve them, help them. And if God forbid everything hits the fan, they have a relationship with somebody that they can turn to.
That's awesome. Can I play one of your TikToks really quick for the audience here to see?
Yeah, go for it.
All
I'm
right.
curious to see what you're going to pick.
Hopefully you can hear it here. I think it might be the one you were talking about. Let's go. Let's see. Let it restart.
Are we jumping out of helicopters?
Yep.
All right, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so that's one of my good friends, Pete. It's funny because the Army is small, and people are like, "Is that Pete, the jump master, the guy that's tapping everybody on the head?" They're like, "Is that Pete? Is that so and so?" Like they're recognizing people from there, and so people comment on there, people they recognize. But yeah, that's my friend Pete, slapping everybody on the head, telling everybody to go. We're jumping out of the UH-60 on the Fryer drop zone, and yeah, that was just a good time. And I'm just sitting up in the bird, hanging out. And, like, what a life, you know, if I get to hang out in a helicopter, fly around and take videos and watch people jump out.
And are you like sitting in a troop seat or something when this video's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I was. I probably took that a year ago, but yeah, just sitting in the troop seat of the UH-60. And like, again, I'm new to the Army, so all this stuff is new. Like I was a youth pastor, like hanging out with middle schoolers and high schoolers a couple years ago, and I'm sitting in this UH-60. Like this is surreal. Like other guys, like again, I'm around E6 and E7. It's no big deal to them. They've done this before, and they're like, I remember taking a picture of the flare, like the manual flare button. I'm like, man, that's like the coolest thing I've ever seen, a flare button. That's there
awesome.
in the troop seat. Yeah, it's super cool. So yeah, I've sat in like the C-130s, like I've been up in the cockpit with them, C-17s. Like the Air Force is actually pretty cool. Obviously, UH-60 is Army, but the Air Force is pretty cool. They let you kind of go anywhere if you have a camera. So
that's awesome. Very cool. So that's your TikTok. So people can go over there and follow you at Austin T Knight. Or just search your name, Austin Knight, like Knights of the Round Table, and you will find him. It pops up pretty quick. Awesome, dude. Very cool. So your job is religious affairs specialist. Is that what your actual job is?
Yeah, religious affairs NCO, and it's a part of the unit ministry team, and so every unit ministry team has a commissioned chaplain and a religious affairs NCO or specialist, and if you play your cards right, I'm telling you, it's one of the best jobs in the Army. So
what would you tell somebody if they were thinking about joining up as that job?
Yeah, so this is something I've been pushing for a long time, and I don't know what your audience is, but if I could do this all over again, I thoroughly enjoyed my time as a pastor. So in order to be a commissioned chaplain, you have to have your master's in divinity. Typically, you're getting that at around 27, 28, 29. And so it's a lot of schooling. It's a long master's program. But if I could do it all over again, I would tell people, you graduate Bible college, right? You can go be a youth pastor somewhere, or you can go jump out of helicopters and airplanes in the United States Army. And so I think that is an awesome opportunity. You can take advantage of it to really widen your idea of your own faith. Like, right, when you work in ministry, like in a church, like you're a pastor at a church, you don't feel like you have the freedom to explore your own faith. And so in the last few months, I've been connecting with a chaplain that he's an Orthodox Christian, never heard of this before. And I'm learning stuff I never learned in Bible college. And I'm like, man, this is incredible. I would have never learned this about my own faith, and challenging me to grow in that way. And so there's just there's options. And while you're doing that, you can work on your master's in divinity and go commission as a chaplain when you're done with it, and the Army's going to pay for it. So that's my take on the religious affairs side. But also, you're the enlisted member of the UMT, and there's a difference, and you won't understand it unless you're in the military. Like, you understand, like, there's a difference between enlisted and officer side, and how you connect with guys. Like, there aren't guys like that are calling me sir. There are guys that are calling me Austin, you know, and that's a difference. And so for me, at least, and I tell people all the time, ministry is not a microphone. It's just being with people and spending time with guys, and that's what I get to do literally every day. It's literally bring your pastor to work day, in my opinion. So that's
great. Do all religious affairs NCO specialists get to jump out of planes?
The last 3 years, I think I've met everyone that has come through the Airborne school. maybe that's a bad advertisement. You can you can come jump out of airplanes. It's definitely a small majority or a small percentage of people that are airborne in general. But then the religious affairs side of the chaplain corps, not a ton.
And
So.
you've done, I think we were talking, but I don't want to misquote. How many jumps do you think you've done, or do you know exactly how many you've done?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but this is again showing up. I wanted to be involved with the unit. I wanted to be a part of it, and so I graduated airborne school like right before COVID started. So like March of 2020, right before COVID started, and airborne school continued on through COVID. And I was like, man, I just want to keep showing up. And I started racking up all these jumps, and I realized like, holy cow, like I have quite a few jumps. And so the airborne school jumps 5 times a week, 3 times a month. So we jump obviously a lot more than the conventional Army does. But so there's a lot of opportunities, and every time 2 cadre members have to jump out of each aircraft on each jump in order to verify the CARP, the wind, all the math that goes involved in jumping out of airplane. You have to jump out to verify. We call it wind testers. And so I volunteered every time because I can spend time with the guys and I get to jump out of airplane. Like it's a win-win, right? And so I did 100 static line jumps in a year. Which like some of the guys that are old T10 jumpers, the old parachute, they're like, how did you do that? I think the T10 is a little softer, but anyways, yeah, 100 jumps in a year from March to it was really like a year and a week or so. But that was an accomplishment I was really proud of jumping 100 times in a year. I got my name on a plaque here at the battalion and a certificate. Cool. But I was a specialist at the time, so I was an E4 specialist that jumped 100 times. That was a lot of fun. And I don't have any idea how many jumps I have anymore. I stopped counting. So probably like 130s ish. So,
well, it's a lot if you stop counting. Do you do you say a prayer before you jump?
So I do for myself, and then every now and then I'll get the opportunity to do a jump one prayer with the entire the group of students, and so it's either my counterpart or myself that right before they jump. There's about 400 people. If the people that've been to airborne school, you know it, but it's called the harness shed, and you're all just sitting in there for hours. And you're waiting to jump. The airborne timeline is a long thing. And we get about 3 or 4 minutes of their time. I give them a little motivational speech. It's the same thing every time, but I give them a little motivational speech, pray for them, and then they load the aircraft. And I do get a lot of students that will ask individual prayer, and I'll do that with them as well. And a lot of people want to pray before they jump out of an airplane.
I bet. So you know what I like about Bible college?
What's that?
Only one textbook.
You're right. One of my favorite jokes is I don't do math because I went to Bible college, and that's some of my favorite jokes.
I thought of that when we were talking. I wanted to get that out there because I love my dad jokes. So when you first did this, I mean, when you joined the Army, how did you even get recruited? Like, did you know that this was a job? How did the Army get you?
Do you want the full story?
How long's the full story? I'd love to hear it.
I'll condense it. It's actually a really good story. It's impactful for me, and I carry it with me because it means a lot. And so I was a youth pastor at a church. Thought I owned the world. Like I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I had a wonderful girlfriend. I bought a house when I was 19. Like things were great. Like everything was wonderful. I thought everything was working well. And February 18th, I walk into my office, and long story short, I get fired. Like this is devastating. And all I was told was 3 things, and it didn't really clarify anything. The reason why this whole situation happened. And so I'm devastated, right? Like I love this place. I love the people. When you leave a church, whether you get fired from a church or you, whatever it is, however you leave, it feels like you get dumped by like 700 girlfriends, right? Like you just like your relationships that you have with these people are just so invested in them. And it just rips it apart, right? Like right away. And so anyways, devastated, couldn't like really figure out what was going on. So decided to like, just drive home, and call my girlfriend. She dumps me. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? Like, I lost my job and my girlfriend in the same day. She had no idea. Like, she didn't go to the church. Like, she had no idea what was happening.
That's the
And
701st
that was just
girlfriend.
on her. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, I'm devastated. Like, this is like the worst thing that could ever happen. Like, and looking back on it now, I'd do it all over again. But so I get home and I'm like, well, I got to figure out like what I'm going to do. Right. I had a severance package. So the church took care of me. I was thankful for all of that. So I had some time. But I wanted to continue to do ministry. I felt like I was called to do it. I felt like I was good at it. And I really loved it, right? And so I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to go back into a church right away. I wanted to figure out other options for ministry, and so just Googling, and I found that every Army unit has a ministry team. I was like, man, that's super neat. And so I had to start telling my family, right? I had to start telling, like, hey, like before the news broke, like, hey, I got fired, right? I want to tell you first. Call my mom, tell her that, go over to my uncle's house. He's like a mentor for me. Served 20 years in the Air Force, and I tell him, and I think he's going to be devastated. He's like, join the military. And I was like, what? I'm like, well, okay. So I started doing that research again and diving into it. And yeah, so I found out the options are. So I just went to a recruiting office and I was like, hey, I want to know more about this. They thought I took an ASVAB that day. They thought I was like, hey, here's all your listed jobs. And I was like, no, I want that one. Like, that's the job that I want. And they're like, they didn't know much about what a religious affairs NCO or specialist was. Like, really, they just didn't. They're like, but you could do this, or you can take this bonus, or you can take that bonus. I'm like, I want that job. And that's what I got. And like, it was wonderful. I sold my house. I listed it, and 24 hours later, the house sold. Sold all my furniture inside my house. Sold basically everything that I owned. Closed on my house on a Friday. Went to basic training on a Monday, and that was almost exactly 3 years ago. So in about 10 days, that was 3 years ago. So that's my story, and I'm proud of it. It's a good thing. Like I said, like I would do it all over again, looking back on it. Right, knowing what's on the other side of it. Heck, send me through the ringer again.
Yeah, that's a great message. You would do it all again. It's, you said it's like getting dumped by 700 girlfriends, and then you tagged on your actual girlfriend. That's pretty devastating for a person in that moment. Was it faith that carried you through that probably initial shock, or what was it? Like, what in your life prepares you to just not break down in that moment? Or maybe you did for a little bit, but you got through it. Like, was it faith?
Yeah, so
was it life experience?
So I'm a strong believer in the community that you surround you with. So I've said a couple times on here, like when it hits the fan, I want somebody to be there for me, but I know other people want someone to be there for them, right? And so I had a great support system of friends friends and family that were just like, I literally had a friend that just drove by my house to make sure I was okay that night, right? I'm 23 years old, and in my eyes, this is the world like collapsing on me. And so he drove by. He's calling me, making sure I'm okay, making sure I'm not going to do anything crazy or irrational. But also, yeah, my faith. I knew that I didn't want to say that God caused this to happen, but I wanted to believe that God allowed this to happen in order for something else to happen, right? And that was the message that kept playing in my head. And honestly, during that time, I was really going to get into sales. Actually, I went through a bunch of different interview processes, and I forget the name of the company, but it's like a Fortune 500 company, maybe even bigger than that. Like it's a huge thing. Financial consultant. It was basically what I was going to do. It was like 5 interviews, and I got through the entire interview process, and like I got the job offered, and I was like, sweet, I accept the job. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold off ministry for right now. And I just immediately had like a buyer's remorse because I knew the Army thing was out there. I took my ASVAB, I did all that stuff. I knew that opportunity was there, but it was a harder decision, right? It was the harder one because I had to sell my house. I had to sell all my stuff. I had to leave my hometown, the only town I ever knew. And so I had like buyer's remorse, and I had a good buddy. He's like, hey, man, let's just go camping for the weekend. We just like unplugged everything and did that. And I was like, man, this is what I'm going to do. It's a harder decision, but I'm going to call up man, I forget the name of that company. I'm going to call up that company and tell them, like, hey, I'm sorry, forego that. And I'm going to join the Army. And I did. And I drove to the recruiting base and signed the papers without calling family and friends, because I knew I was like, this was the right decision. And yeah, again, thankful that I did it. And I was going to a different church at the time. Obviously, you can't walk into a church that you just got fired from. And so I was going to a different church, and the message was that the heroes of the faith, and I don't consider myself a hero of the faith by any means. I'm just doing the little bit that I feel called to do. But the heroes of the faith, like they faced adversity, right? And spiritual warfare is a real thing. Like, we have an enemy that is pushing back against us. And when you're making progress for God, right, like the enemy is going to push back. That's when he's going to attack. Why would he attack the dude that's doing nothing, right? And so that's what I believe, and that's what pulled me through it, is that there's something better out there, and God's like just revealing it slowly, and here we are. It's a cool time, like a cool February 18th. I always look at it, but then this time of year, I'm always looking back, and I hope I always do, and just reflect and remember the little I thought I knew. And I still, like 3 years from now, I hope that I'm like, my eyes are opened again to something to be better. So,
you know, sometimes people will say something to me on this show, and I feel like I just drank a whole nother cup of coffee. Like, I could just go out and run right now, because it just energizes me when you say, you know, you made the harder choice, the scarier choice. And somebody said something on the show one time. They were a Master Chief in the Navy, an E9, and they said that they had not maxed out their years in the Navy. They could have done more, but they had grown too comfortable, and they realized they had stopped growing. And it's you have that. I think we're faced with that choice throughout our lives, where you could stay put and you have what you have, and maybe you're totally happy, and that's fine. Or you're not happy, right, and you have the opportunity to go do something risky that is probably what you should do, but fear takes hold and it can totally cripple you. And when you choose to, that is literally the hero's journey that you embark upon on your own hero's journey, to go through this great loss and embark on a new quest and achieve some great things. That's what movies are about. That's the story of your life. And I don't know, just the hair on my arm stands up when I think about it, because it's so inspiring to hear. That's epic, dude. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, we grow from tearing things down, right? And so just even in the gym, right? Like, you're breaking muscles down, you're breaking norms down, you're breaking things down, and you're experiencing even better on the other side of it. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned in the Army, and that's what I tell the Airborne students, actually, before in my Jump One prayer, when I have the opportunity to do that. The good things require you to make hard decisions, and that's what you're about to be faced with. If you want to be proud of yourself for the rest of your life for graduating Airborne school, you have to make this decision to jump out of an airplane 5 times, right? Like, you have to tell your mind, hey, even though this is hard, I got to get out of there. And I tell them, like, hey, on jump 5, I try to talk to most of the students, and I tell them on jump 5, like, sit there and don't tell the instructors I tell them this, but like, land, you lay down, basically. I'm like, just sit there and reflect for a second. Like, look what you just did, right? Like, be proud of that for a second, then get your stuff together and get back in. But reflect on where you were and where you came from. And there's this whole conversation of, is Airborne irrelevant or relevant in 2022? And I'm like, regardless, like, I'm an E5 in the Army. I can't make that decision. And the guys that are making that decision aren't the ones that are commenting on TikToks, right? Regardless, it is a challenge in front of you, and you're going to overcome that challenge, and you're going to grow from it. You're going to be better from it. And that schoolhouse is still here in the United States Army. And if you get the opportunity to attend it, whether it's irrelevant or whatever, take advantage of it. Same thing on a 3-mile run, right? You can quit, but you'll feel better if you finish it, right? Or 5-mile run, whatever it is. So anyway,
whatever it
is. I've learned that in the Army. Wouldn't have never learned that, I don't think.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, that's awesome. So, anybody listening to this, I'm sure, has already sought you out online, because you say amazing things. You should talk. I mean, TikTok's a fickle thing, but you should give some motivation on more motivational stuff on TikTok, because you really are good at it.
I appreciate that.
Talking about Airborne school, what was your do you remember your first jump? What, like, leading up to it, like leading up to your first jump, like the training, all that stuff?
Yeah. So Airborne school is broken up into 3 weeks, and it has for decades. It's you'd be surprised if you went in 1982 how similar it is today. But down to some of the goofy things that we say, or cadences that we say on runs, whatever it might be. But anyways, the first week is ground week, and you're basically learning how to fall. Like, you're learning how to do a proper PLF, a parachute landing fall. You're learning how to you would do individual exits on the mock tower. So the 34-foot tower that's connected to a zip line, you're going to individually exit out of that with a group of 4 people, but or actually, no, not a group of 4 people, just individually. And so you're learning how to do that, just like in that 34-foot, like there's a lot of rumors of why it's 34-foot, but whatever it is, challenge, take advantage of it, jump out of that 34-foot, ride the zip line down, and a lot of running in the morning. So you're doing 3-mile runs in the morning throughout the day, and throughout the day back to Chow Hall, all this stuff. So you're running all the time. I remember that was like, man, why are we running all the time? This is stupid. Side note, I underestimated the physical side of joining the Army during this whole thing. Like, when I joined, I just, for some reason, didn't really think about the physical side. And when I get to basic training, they're like, we're going to run. I'm like, run? Like, okay. I never ran in my life. I don't know why I underestimated that. But anyways, yeah, we ran all the time and did all that. But then Tower Week, week 2, is now you're doing mock door, mass exit mock door. So you're, or mock door, mass exit, whatever it is, where you're jumping as a group. So you get a group of 4 people, and you're jumping out of the 34-foot tower, and the Sergeant Airborne will give you a scenario. Like, there'll be like partial malfunction, and you have to react to that with your reserve, or maybe just get out a twist or whatever that is. And they're grading you, they're watching you do that. And my class, we were very fortunate to do the 250-foot towers. So like the legendary towers that have been there since the 50s, 40s. And there's a reason why we don't do those anymore. And simply because the parachute that was on there was specifically designed for the 250 tower, and they're redesigning it. It went out of date. They're redesigning it. So they'll do it again soon. We don't know when, probably a couple years from now, they'll fire it up again. But the weather has to be perfect. And not everybody in the class gets to do it because it takes so long. But basically, they put a giant parachute on you. They put it in a giant ring, the parachute. They hook it all up. So now the canopy's fully open, and you're standing off to the side of it. There's a winch that will pull you up 250 feet, and you're just hanging there. And they hit a button, and you fall. And that's your real first time of learning how to do a PLF. And because I worked at the schoolhouse, they were like, Knight, come here. Like, hooked me up and took me up the 250 tower. And I'm so thankful I did it, because now, like, not very many people get to do it. Then jump week comes. You wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and a whole bunch of like safety briefs and stuff like that you're going to receive. You're going to put your parachute on at probably 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to sit there. And maybe 7 o'clock in the morning, you're going to sit there, and you're going to sit there, and you're going to wait for a Sergeant Airborne to come JMPI you, Jump Master Parachute Inspection, making sure you donned it right, making sure it was like packed right, essentially, and stuff like that. And then you're going to sit down, and you're going to sit there, and you're going to sit there. And I think first load is around 11 o'clock. I dropped my headphones here. Your first load's around like 11 o'clock, but like if you're not on the first chalk, you're just still going to be waiting. And so I remember my first jump, and I remember this, and I wrote it down so I could tell the other students this. This is the situation, and 130 jumps in. This is what goes on in my mind. You walk out of the aircraft, and you're like, man, I look so cool. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm the coolest guy in the world. Like, I'm getting ready to get on that aircraft. And then you sit down, and it's like real rushed, like sit down, sit down, sit down. And and then you take off and you're like, oh goodness, this is a little different than Delta, right? Like this is a lot different. And then they open the door and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I don't want to do this anymore. I thought I was cool, but it's a lot easier to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. And then they're going to say, get ready, stand up. You're going to stand up and you're going to hook up basically. And you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm ready to quit. This is ridiculous. This is a lot easier to quit. What was the situation? They told me if I jump for fuse, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then they say, green light, go. And you just go. Like, and literally you're going to exit the aircraft and you're going to count to 6,000, maybe. Your eyes are probably going to be closed. And then you're going to look up and be like, I don't know how I just did that. I literally don't know how I just did that. And that was incredible. And then you're going to be floating around and like, this is the coolest thing in the world. This is amazing. And then you're going to be about 100 feet from the ground and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. The ground is coming. This is ridiculous. It's a lot easier to quit. And then you smash into the ground and you're like, that was the coolest thing in the world. I want to do that all over again. And 135 jumps later, whatever I'm at, I still have that mentality of you have to like basically turn your mind off and just let your training that you've received over the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks to kind of kick in. And it happens every time. And it's neat. But your first jump, you got to piss so bad because you just been sitting in a harness shed since 7 a.m. And so that's all you kind of really think about is like, man, if I hit the ground, I can go pee.
That'll motivate you, I guess.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I've never been through jump school. I've been skydiving, but yeah, it is like, it's like going up to the top of a roller coaster. It's easy when it's clicking up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a blast, but then when you see over the edge, you're like, what have I done? What have I put myself into? And I know I can understand that feeling. You get that same feeling a lot of times in life. And that's kind of what you have to do. You have to just do it anyway. You know, they say courage isn't the absence of fear, it's doing it anyway. And so that's just one more opportunity when you're a young soldier to understand more about what courage is and facing fear and overcoming obstacles and all that. Because even if PT is the obstacle, even if you don't like to run, that's an obstacle. Maybe you're not good at waking up in the morning. That's an obstacle. Maybe you're scared of jumping out of a plane. That's probably a huge obstacle. But you go out there and do it, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and you become a better person because of it on the other side. Like, yeah, you can jump out of airplanes, but the underlying part of it, you're a better soldier, you're a better person. You're like, it's just, it's exponential, the growth that you experience from just like, I don't care if it's airborne school, air assault school, Pathfinder, whatever it is, anything that you accomplish, you're better because of it. So
somebody in the chat asked if you are air assault or if you plan on becoming air assault.
So had an opportunity, I'm not air assault, went to Pathfinder school, not air assault school. If the opportunity arises again, I'll go. We have a warrior training center here at Fort Benning that is a National Guard unit that trains air assault. And every now and then we get some slots available. I got to take my own medicine and just accomplish it and do it. And so, but no, not air assault yet.
Can you really quick give us the bottom line up front on what Pathfinder and air assault is and what the difference is?
Yeah, people might crucify me, so this is just my understanding of it. So in an airborne mission, there's a lot of math that goes into it in order to get your parachute to land in the right spot. So basically, if this is your straight line and this is where you want your guys to land, you might have to fly here or you might have to fly here in order to get that parachute to land here. And so there's wind at altitude. There's all kinds of variables that goes into play. And maybe you have 25 seconds of green light. Well, how many jumpers can I get out with 25 seconds? And your commanders want that information. And there's formulas involved to get that information. And so Pathfinder is 3 weeks. The first week is sling loads. And that is what correlates to air assault school. So you have the sling load operation. This is just hooking stuff up to the bottom of a helicopter and learning all the nomenclature. There's a few differences in how they run the school, but essentially the same thing in that course or that part of it. Second week is helicopter landing zones. And that is, okay, I got a bunch of people over here and I want to get them over here. And how long is that going to take? How big does the landing pad have to be? And all that math involved. And then the last week of Pathfinder school is drop zones. And that's where you're doing the, hey, land or fly here, basically. Or with a helicopter, there's 3 different types of drop zones. You have a CARP drop zone, a VIIRS drop zone, and a GMRS. Basically, just 3 options you have in order to get a helicopter or a high performance aircraft to land paratroopers where you want them. So
that's
Pathfinder school, air assault school. 10 days, not 100% sure on what you do after the sling load part.
Okay. Yeah. It's, I know there's a lot of qualifications and different insignia you can get on your uniform over there in the Army with all those schools and get patches and tabs and all that stuff. So, cool. So good. So congratulations on being a Pathfinder. That's very cool.
That was a fun 3 weeks.
Yeah. Hey, on that first jump at Airborne school, what kind of aircraft are you jumping out of?
It's either a C-130 or a C-17. Those are the 2 options. I don't remember what mine was. I think it was a 130. But yeah, that's all you're going to jump out of at Airborne school.
Okay. Have you ever had a malfunction?
I have. That's a fun story as well. Sorry, I talk a lot, but
no, please. I love it. You're great.
Yeah. On my 75th jump, December 8th, right before we go on block leave, and it was not a student jump. It was like I talked about before with cadres or 2 cadre members jumping out. This was a battalion bonding event. Basically, it was a battalion mass tack. We're gonna ruck back 8 miles back to the harness shed from the drop zone. Had all this planned out, and I jumped out and it was complete black. Didn't complete night. Most night jumps, you're gonna have some moonlight, right? Like other than one day a month, you're gonna have some moonlight. I don't remember much moonlight on this one, but I knew something was wrong, and I heard my canopy. I heard, and then I looked up. So basically, I thought I had twists. So when you jump out, sometimes your canopy will spin. A lot of controversy on if it's the riggers, the parachute packer, or if it's the jumper. I'm telling you, it's the jumper. I've jumped 40 times in a row without any twist because I figured some idea out of how this works. But anyways, so I probably just had a bad exit, had a heavy ruck, bad exit. Thought I had my canopy twisted, and so I'm trying to get the twist out. But I look up and I see the light of the aircraft, and I see everybody else and how high they were. I was like, all right, that's a problem. And I hear the so I activate my reserve. Never pulled a reserve before. It's a spring-loaded thing that's right on your chest, and your direction is to pull your ripcord handle and drop it. So I remember pulling it, and I don't remember anything happening. And I was like, did I just rip the handle off? So I dropped it, looked up, reserve is open. It had come out so fast. Reserve's open, I hit the ground. And so I feel around, feel my legs. I'm good. And they're like, stay there, stay there, stay there. Apparently, there's you don't have time. I was in the air for 14 seconds, 12 seconds, something like that, something crazy. You don't have time to, fear doesn't have that chance to really pull in yet because you don't really realize what's happening. But all my buddies around me and the guys that were on the ground with night vision, they saw me falling to the sky. I didn't see me falling to the sky. They saw me falling to the sky. And so they were freaking out. I'm like, guys, I'm fine. I pulled my reserve and it was fine. But they took the canopy, they inspected it. They didn't let me walk on the 8-mile ruck back. They were worried that I was going to start freaking out or something. And so they rode me back. I was like, cool, riding in the car. So yeah, it's 75th jump. Yeah. I still have, somebody found my ripcord handle. So I still have my ripcord handle.
Wow. That is a pucker moment right there. Yeah. So, without moonlight, we might call that 0% illume. And you weren't on nods either. I hear jumping on nods is a pretty bad experience too anyway.
You're talking a foreign language to me.
Okay.
So I know what nods are, but yeah, no, I've never jumped with nods.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't know.
Okay.
But I'm assuming they do, but I don't know how you do it. So
yeah. All right. So, wow. Whew, That is scary stuff. But look, you're still here, and you did 75 more something jumps since then, maybe up to probably.
Yeah, maybe.
So you can, if anybody out there is listening to this, nervous about airborne school, then they can know that they won't be the first person to go through it or the first person to have any issue. People go through there and get through it all the time.
Right.
So we talked a little bit before the show kind of on Airborne School and the history, and we were talking a little bit about the triple nickel. Do you want to talk about a little bit about the legacy of Airborne and why that school in Fort Benning is so famous and respected, and what it is about it?
Yeah. So, in our conversation beforehand, I would say I'm middle school, late elementary school knowledgeable on Airborne. In the real world, I guess you could say, but Airborne here at the Airborne School, I've gathered some information, and it's interesting. But I get to read the narration script for our graduating classes quite often, and there's a pretty cool spiel inside of there. But in 1942, they started the United States Army Airborne School. And we've been doing this for 80 years now, I guess. And there's anybody that you've ever seen have a pair of airborne wings on their chest, whether it's in a picture in Congress or wherever it might be, any famous war military person, like if they have an airborne wings on their chest, they jumped at Fort Benning and they jumped on the fire drop zone, and they jumped 5 times. And I think that's just so neat because of the amount of people that walk through here, the people like Colin Powell or whoever it might be. Like that's what I'm thinking of right now. Like he sat in the same benches that I've sat in. He landed on the same drop zone that I landed on. And that's neat to know that there's one airborne school ish that is well known of, but there's one airborne school and that everybody from different Department of Defense are sent here, and are branches of the Department of Defense. And that's a neat thing, and I try to remind the students of that too. Like there's some incredible people that came through here first.
And one of those groups is the triple nickel. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we do every now and then we do an LPD of something that came through Airborne School or somebody that came through Airborne School. And so we did a Airborne, so Colonel Henderson right now is our battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Henderson. He's the first African-American battalion commander of the Airborne School. And so that's something that he's very passionate about and takes a lot of pride in. And so he makes us or helps us understand how hard it is for him to have been here, not for him specifically, but for generations before him, and how they would look up at this. So anyways, we did a lot of history of learning about the history of the 555th Parachute Infantry Battalion, the Triple Nickels, and it was the first all African American airborne unit to serve in the United States Army. And so basically, and at that time, I'm looking at the date here, 43, 44. 44. 1944. Basically, before that, like if you're here at the Airborne School, you're basically cadre or staff. You're not allowed to participate in the school. And so what they did was they cleaned the apparatuses, they repaired the apparatuses and whatnot. And throughout the after the training day had ended for the airborne students, they would go and they would basically mimic or do the exact same airborne training that they were doing, ground week and tower week and whatnot, or just doing PT. And Sergeant Major at the time had noticed how physically fit they were, how strong they were, and so some of these guys are in better shape than our guys, and they sent them through the school. And if you're here at Fort Benning, if you go visit Fort Benning, there is a memorial of where the Triple Nickels, the first African American parachute infantry group to graduate Airborne School, there's a spot where they graduated, and I drive by the rock every day and would never have noticed that rock was there. But it's Fort Benning is historic. but Airborne School inside of it, there's some neat history coming from here. So
that's a great story. We love learning about that kind of history on the Scuttlebutt show. Anytime we get an opportunity to talk about it, it's pretty great. There, on this show, we talk a lot about we cover a lot of stories about, mischief, if you will, all kinds of crazy stuff. Recently, we've been talking about Army recruiting and demographics. When you look around Airborne School, what do you see? Like, tell me about what you see. All these people coming through the pipeline. Tell me about the modern soldier that you see. Is this person up to par with soldiers of yesteryear, so to speak? Like, what is it like dealing with like modern soldiers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in Airborne School, most of our soldiers that come through here are IET, or initial entry training. So they come from basic training to AIT to Airborne School. Some of them are actually just basic training. The parachute riggers that come through, they have to go through Airborne School and then AIT. So we have like literally 18-year-olds that were in high school 6 months ago studying algebra, and now they're jumping out of airplanes. And so we get to see front and center, like from every installation, from the basic training installations, from Fort Jackson, from Fort Bliss, from Fort Benning, whatever it might be. And again, with all that time in the harness shed, I love to go down and talk to the students, ask them where they're from, why they joined the Army, stuff like that. Just get a little bit of their story, make them laugh a little bit if we can, because it's such a long day. But I really do think that that we're doing ourselves a disservice by knocking the next generation, right? Especially in the United States Army, because if they weren't there, if they didn't raise their hand, if they didn't volunteer, we wouldn't have them, right? And so whether you think that you were the toughest dude in the United States Army in 1974, if we don't have the guys that serve today, then we have nothing. So build them up and encourage them and support them instead of degrading them. And that's what we have to, that's a challenge that we had when I first got here, right? Like, especially with some of the population that failed Airborne School, just because they don't have wings on their chest, they're going to go do great things for their country in another part of the Army. And nobody will ever know they failed Airborne School. And so that's where I have settled on, is like, is every generation always thinks that they're the best generation, right? And so we're never going to get past that. But when it comes to the Army or any Department of Defense branch, like, we all have one thing in common, right? We all did that, and so regardless, we all have a common bond, right? And so nobody cares how hard it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Like, really, nobody does. And all you're doing by saying that is just boosting your own ego to make your grandson think you're cool. Like, that's awesome. I'm sure he's proud of you and thankful for you, but like, he doesn't truly understand what it is like to run in boots or polish your boots or whatever it might be, So that's where I'm at.
I think I agree with you. As long as people are still, upholding the values and the legacy, right? And as long as troops are doing troop stuff, so to speak, as long as people understand, like what you were saying, sitting in the seat of future Medal of Honor winners, heroes from all different wars, generals, and people of major influence in our history. As long as that stuff is still prevalent and people still understand what they're doing, it doesn't matter if they get their cell phones or if they post to social media or anything like that. And in fact, I'm sure my generation, I'm a little bit older than you. We probably, I have probably my generation of people who would be like senior NCOs by the time, if you joined when you were 18, you'd be like a mid-level NCO right now. Then there are people joining right now as privates, right? I'm sure all three of us, when we were the same age, did the same stuff.
That's exactly what. Yes,
it is totally silly to bash the next generation. We had a guest on the show a couple weeks ago, Dan Negroni, preaching the same thing, and it's very true. I agree with it 100%. As long as people are still understanding what as long as they're still doing the right things, And
right. You can't judge somebody with your 40-year-old moral compass or 50-year-old moral compass or 60-year-old moral compass to somebody that has an 18-year-old moral compass. Like, you can't expect them to think the same way or have the same mindset as you, or to understand the Army the way you did as an E7 as they are as an E1 six months in. And just trust the process. Like, it's going to get them there. And they may not be great now, but it's going to click for them one day, right? Like, it's going to click for them and realize all of these wonderful things I have in the Army and the opportunities that I have. It's going to click. It hasn't clicked yet, but it'll click.
It's coming. So you've been in, I mean, you're doing great. You've been in 3 years, NCO, religious affairs, running the Facebook page out of Fort Benning. By the way, Fort Benning also has an awesome YouTube channel that we actually look at videos on this show from all the time. You're posting to TikTok videos, people jumping out of planes. What do you think the status of the military and social media is? What do you think about, people posting on TikTok? Like, you post military content on your TikTok and you represent the Fort Benning Facebook page. What do you think is the role of social media in the military as far as the importance of maintaining it, uploading to it, the influence it has on young recruits, the way it sometimes gets misused, all that stuff?
Yeah. Are you asking from, like, run by U.S. Army or run by TikTok influencers in the Army? Like, which way are you asking?
So, okay, thank you for splitting that up. So what do you think about, like, people who are in the Army posting just random stuff on TikTok all day?
Yeah, great. Yeah, so one, if you put not affiliated with the DoD in your bio, you are affiliated with the DoD in your bio because you're wearing a uniform, you're doing all this other stuff. So that doesn't mean you could do whatever you want to do.
Thank you for saying that.
That doesn't mean you can do whatever you want to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Army comes in and puts doctrine in place to kind of control or rein some of that in, because right now they're just relying on everybody's moral compass, right? On what they think is right or wrong, and there's no Army ethical guideline of what is right and wrong yet on TikTok or whatever it might be. But at the same time, I think it's incredibly valuable for the United States Army, because I hope that, just for an example, maybe this isn't the case, but I'm sure that a bunch of 13, 14, 15-year-olds follow me on TikTok and they think it's really cool that we're jumping out of airplanes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know my 13-year-old cousin does, and I know that he thinks that this is the greatest thing in the world, and now he has a mindset of, like, oh, this is what I could do in the Army. And so but the downside is the Army can't control everybody doing that. And so I don't know where that is. There is a lot of negative. There's a lot of terrible things that I've seen on TikTok. I do know that the Army, so you had mentioned that I don't run the Fort Benning Facebook page. I run the Airborne School Facebook page.
Oh,
but I know the people that run the Fort Benning. You're fine. I know the people that run the Fort Benning page, and they crack down quick. If there's somebody watching, I don't know who it is, but there is, like, if they see something inappropriate, I think there was a drill sergeant a few months ago that had said done something wrong, and I'm talking like 48 hours. Like, that guy was investigated and had CID knocking on his door, whatever it might be. And so maybe that's the answer. Maybe police it from afar, just to make sure that we're not doing dumb things. But at the end of the day, you got a wide variety of people that are on there, and that's a wonderful thing about the Army. Though, like, you got demographics from all over the place, and I think that it's wise for them to broadcast it, but they have to control it in some way, and I think they are. I think that there's enough UCMJ actions that could scare you enough to delete and take stuff down, or delete your account in general if you repeatedly do it. So
sure. It's interesting. It's an interesting time. I don't know what I think about it. I know that to circle back on one of the other things we talked about, I will say, anytime I hear people talking like as if their generation would have done any better if they had smartphones and TikTok, I chuckle, because I am 100% sure when I was 18, me and the hooligans that I hung out with were not better than anybody. And if we had the opportunity, we would be posting away from the flight deck of the carrier, from the Philippines, from anywhere we could.
Yeah. So yeah, just to prove that point, a friend of mine, Master Sergeant that just retired, he has what's the camera you throw? Disposable camera.
Yeah.
They would jump out of airplane. So you've seen the whole controversy, like you saw, like dude with the goldfish jump out of an airplane or whatever, right? Like years ago, or people were getting in trouble for taking a selfie when they're in the air for that 45 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
We've been taking selfies when we've been in the air since disposable cameras, and he jumped with disposable camera in his pocket. So yeah, we've been doing it. He just had no way to share it.
Yeah. Yep. That's 100% true. So, you know, let me just share with everybody really quick. We've almost been going for an hour already, if you can believe that. This is your TikTok page, wow. Austin T. Knight. If you guys have TikTok and you haven't followed him, make sure you guys go and do so. Austin T. Knight, Knight like Knights at a Round Table. And it says on here, Jesus follower, soldier, paratrooper. It doesn't get much cooler than that. You're living the dream of many people. I ask a lot of people this on the show. Sometimes I forget, but I feel like after this whole conversation, it'd be great to ask you. There's one question above all else that matters at the end of the day. Are you happy?
Joyful.
That's good, man.
Full of joy. And I tell, I do a lot of counseling sessions with students, and that is, you have to make sure that your cup is full, and overflowing is what you share with other people. And so right now I feel like I'm overflowing, and that gives me the capacity to share with other people in my joy. Not a street preacher, but I want to live my life in a way that I am different, and somebody will eventually ask why. And so I try to remain joyful as much as I can. So,
well, today it happened for you, because that's why you're on the Scuttlebutt show right now, is to get to the bottom of kind of who you are and how you're doing so well. And I hope that a lot of people took something good away from that. I mean, I'm certain everybody did, even what you just said about your cup being full and overflowing is what you share with other people. I love that quote. I'm going to snippet that so I can share it with people. I'm going to tell people that today, I'm sure. So
cool. Yeah, you're in a whole. You're gonna start a day. I'm getting ready to end the day.
I know. Yeah, it's 11 a.m. out here. So, really quick before we go, I want to make sure. Is there anything else that you wanted to get to or talk about or say to the audience before we start wrapping it up?
No, I think we've covered. I'm looking at my list. That's yeah, man. We've. I can't believe it's been an hour. This has been a pleasant experience for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, on behalf of the Scuttlebutt Show, I want to thank you and from me personally, I want to thank you for reaching out from TikTok. Another TikTok connection has been made, and well, would you come back? I'd love to have you back on the show sometime.
Let's do it. Hopefully next time I'll be freezing in Fairbanks, Alaska, but we'll see.
Let's do it. Next time, coming live from Alaska.
Let's do it.
All right, Austin.
Sounds great.
Hang on for a minute on the line, and I will close out the show here, and I'll be right back with you, all right?
Awesome.
Does it get better than that? That was a good time. I feel like I took a lot out of that. I hope that you guys did too. If you got even close to what I got out of that, leave it in the comment section and share this video, and go follow Austin on TikTok. What a pleasure it was. Thanks to Austin for being here. Guys, just to wrap it up, as a reminder, there won't be a show tomorrow because I'll be taking care of the documentary premiere, which I look forward to sharing with you guys soon. And before you go, today's a good day to remind you to go ahead and smash that like button. It's not on the screen. It's just off to the side. It's out the window. It's with your family. It's with your pets. Go out and do something cool. If you have the opportunity, go out and jump out of a plane. Just do something cool for me. Will you do me that favor? Thank you. Look forward to talking to you guys all very soon. Until next time, for now, that's the Scuttlebutt.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.